Hello, and welcome to the Industry Innovators Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Cornett. I'm the founder and CEO of SC Innovate, an AI consulting firm helping clients with every step of their AI journey. As we transition into an AI driven world, there is a significant debate surrounding AI's role in education. And there are many exciting opportunities and innovations for AI in education, such as personalized learning, educational content generation, accessibility tools, and virtual classrooms, all geared towards helping children learn in the best environment possible. But there are also some concerns about letting AI into the classroom and how much should AI be involved when educating our students. We certainly want our students to be prepared to move into this new world of AI and new technology. But what is the balance of AI being a positive thing in the classroom and not causing any harm to students' ability to learn and think for themselves? To dive deeper into this discussion, I'm joined today by my colleague Jacob Deitz. Jacob is a passionate educator and ecosystem builder with over 5 years of experience transforming middle school science classrooms through innovative teaching methods and hands on learning. He's the founder and CEO of Kilimo Collective, a global network dedicated to fostering collaboration and driving sustainable development. As a lifelong learner, Jacob is actively exploring the potential of AI to revolutionize education and empower learners of all ages. I'm very excited to speak with Jacob to understand what he thinks about AI's role in education. Please join in me in welcoming Jacob Dietz to the Industry Innovators Podcast. Welcome, Jacob, to the Industry Innovators Podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, Sarah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm very excited to have you on to discuss your experience in innovation and education. You have over 5 years of experience transforming middle school science classrooms through innovative teaching methods. You mentioned you believe that by embracing technology and fostering collaboration, we can create a more equitable and effective educational landscape for future generations. And I just love that vision. I love your vision of technology and education. And I just really love your vision of the future of innovation through education. And so I'd love to start by asking you just can you explain a little bit more about your experience and how you've applied these innovative methods throughout your experience in education?
Yeah, of course. And so, yeah, my experience and journey is a bit diverse. I actually started as a geologist. I was an oil and gas geologist for 8 years, and then teaching was always something I wanted to explore. I remember back in fifth grade when other people were like, there's this thing on the wall, like what is Jimmy gonna do and when he's an adult? And for me, like it was lawyer or teacher. Not a lawyer, but always wanted to pursue teaching, like specifically middle school, because where I grew up in Atlanta, going to Atlanta public schools, and middle school was, and not just in Atlanta, but a lot of places, middle school was that tipping point. But it's also an age where you have some of the most like creativity and imagination, and there are so many things that are happening and that you're able to try now. And so it's really a great place to embrace innovation and curiosity and creativity, and did that a lot through different techniques like project-based learning, and um, where trying to provide students with more of an experiential education.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. I really want to learn more about that. Could you explain a little bit more about like maybe what a typical teaching curriculum could have looked like, right, for these like middle school students that you work with to now you're kind of pushing the envelope a little bit and kind of breaking out and trying new things. Could you dive a little bit into like some examples of what that looked like and maybe even some potential challenges or obstacles that you face by going through that?
Oh yeah, no, I can fill you in on several. But so I think me coming in with I was hired with no experience. My dad, his whole career was education, mainly higher ed, and um, was very when I was a student. I was a bit of a knucklehead, but good teachers. Like I remember all of the really good teachers and I remember all of the bad teachers. And I took that in as sort of knowledge of I know, if I was sitting in that desk, what type of teacher I would want. Mutual respect is a big thing. And so I came in with, different mindset, different background, different perspectives. But I feel like that's what I like to do. And I've always done in any type of career I've been in. And, you know, in terms of teaching seventh grade, I started teaching seventh grade. And in Texas, where I taught, it's not a tested grade. And so you have a little more freedom to be creative and be more creative in your curriculum. And so after my first year of teaching, where I was just, trying to survive, and to a certain degree, in the second year, I started to implement project-based learning, which, is a place for collaboration, is a place for students being able to interact with real world material and real world jobs, and use technology, research, work together, talk. But just being able to use their imagination and their creativity and really cultivate that, because I saw, like, and I think this is just a remnant of the system. I saw like a lot of other teachers, and I could hear that in my students, like, you know work, not that it's always worksheets, but it's a very standard. You have your bell warmer, you have your lecture, you have your work period, and then your closing. And
Yeah.
it's just set, it's one size fits all cookie cutter, and I'm not that type of person. And so I think that's was an obstacle for me that I had to face in terms of being within the system. And specifically my fourth year teaching, the eighth grade STEM science teacher resigned in November. This was 2019, 2020, so the COVID year. And the principal came up one afternoon. She was like, we'd love to have you move up to eighth grade. It was with this group of students I'd had the previous year, so great relationships with them. And
Mm-hmm.
eighth grade was a tested grade, so thinking they want somebody that could handle that and could come in and ensure that test scores are good. And pretty much what they said is like, we love what you do with project-based learning, but we need to make sure that the students are prepared for the tests. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
you're pretty much sacrificing creativity for like a drill and kill type of curriculum.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when research shows that project-based learning, students that are more engaged, students that take more ownership of the learning, this is a lot tied with AI in education, like
Yeah.
autonomous education. Students want to take their lives in their own hands and learn their own way. And they're tired of the standard way of how things are done in K through 12. And now colleges are starting to experience that, because I just had this thought. It's like you have K through 12 where in a lot of aspects, like there's a lot of lecture, there's a lot of sit, listen, learn, work. When I felt like when I was going through school and as a 90s kid, it was more of a holistic experience, which allowed me to, dabble in arts and sports and you know talk to a lot of different people and develop these social skills, um, which which is starting to fade because there's just so much pressure put on data and test scores, and that's an obstacle that's hard to overcome.
Yeah, I could see that, right? You're kind of, coming into these systems that have been sort of, put in your lap and you don't have necessarily a lot of control maybe of some of those systems. But it sounds like, and I'd love to hear, did you see some students, starting to thrive in these project-based learning kinds of applications versus a standard one? Or how did you see that? Like, how did you see the students take to those like more innovative learning abilities and more creative and like just those different modalities of learning versus the testing and the worksheets and the more standard practices?
And they loved it. I mean, it was just a break. They could talk to each other, which was an important thing. And it's like as a teacher, and somebody else, you know, told me this, like it's something like with trust. Trust is sort of like there's power associated with trust, and um, you have to release that power and facilitate and let you know students. It's somewhat unrealistic to think that you're going to have a 13-year-old that's all 13, 14-year-olds are going to sit there and work amongst each other and not talk or fool around or like throw a piece of paper at me or no, but like it's I think that they just appreciate the different dynamic, and also you know traveling is something that I was very privileged to have the opportunity to do, and so bringing in experiences, different parts of the world, things that also that I loved, and that I'd be passionate about, and that I know that I remember the best teachers, that the most passionate teachers that I could truly see that they love what they do. I
Mhm.
loved it, and I would be on board. Specifically, one cool one. This was probably one of the most interesting ones is we had to teach topography mapping, and why it's a good skill to have, but the weighted amount that's on a test, so the amount of time you have to spend teaching it. And so I was like, I'm gonna, regardless of what they said, like I'm gonna do PBL for this. And so what I had was students. I went and got a bunch of different topo maps of national parks and had them plan and execute like a big backpacking trip, and having scenarios along the way that would cause them to have to, use the map to find the best possible way to get to their next location. And I think just having that where they were having to problem solve and use their imagination and have fun, they were just more relaxed, and they would also remember things a lot easier because you can go back to that experience.
Yeah, it's like you're applying your knowledge that you're gaining, right? Instead of sort of memorizing on a test and making sure you know the exact date of something, to memorize for a specific test you're taking, you're applying the skills and the techniques that you're learning, from a project-based standpoint in a way to put them in a real world scenario, which I could see really, really being beneficial and really sticking to students and really be able to apply that.
Yeah, and like if since we're on an AI focused podcast,
Yeah.
if we're thinking about like if I was a teacher doing PBL right now, um, you know, think about like hackathons. Like you could have a hackathon within your class where students are using, whether ChatGPT or Google Gemini, just generative AI in some form or fashion, to solve some big problem. I was at this event up in Seattle, a climate event, and they had sort of offsite, they had a big hackathon going where just these groups of just really intelligent people using technology to solve some major world problem. And that's what I love about artificial intelligence and specifically generative AI is like it's a safe space to test big ideas and to test curiosity and also enhance curiosity and become more confident in being curious, because being creative and also like curiosity is can be something that it's hard. It's not necessarily very tangible in terms of a school setting, and it could be a little bit scary sometimes as you're putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
the technology allows you to do it in a very safe space where you can test your ideas and push yourself to levels and learn in a way that is tailored to how you learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love the notion of just being curious and just trying and experimenting on your own and giving students the hands-on tools to be able to do that. And I love where you're going with AI is exactly where I was headed next. So just like I know you've said you've been like researching different ways for AI to revolutionize education and empower learners for all ages. So I'd love to hear what you've uncovered throughout your research with that. I mean, there's lots of amazing use cases and with AI and education with personalized learning. We talked a little bit about that, and this project-based learning, I could see it playing a role in there. So yeah, I would love to hear what you've uncovered and what you see could be a really good application of AI for students in education.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, and I think it's what I was saying earlier. It's like I'm a very optimistic person and I'm hopeful for the future and excited for what AI can do to optimize the education system and really help the education system.
Mhm.
And so my perception of AI in education is one of cautious optimism. As someone who's witnessed firsthand the challenges and inequities in the traditional classroom, I'm genuinely excited about the potential of AI to revolutionize the way we educate and empower young people. And so, some key aspects that I'm really stoked about is one you just said is personalized learning. Um, One of the hardest things to do as a teacher, but one that is expected. And I'll give you one of my toughest cases is my first year. I had a class that there was maybe about 30 students. Um, at times, there could be 10 to 12 students that with special education, different needs, different abilities, and thinking of how to differentiate um, to make sure that everyone is learning in the way that they need to learn is
Yeah.
tough. And so what AI can do is that it can tailor learning experiences to those individual students' needs, interests, and pace. Unlocking a level of personalization that was previously unattainable. Imagine students receiving like real-time feedback, adaptive challenges, and targeted support, all while exploring subjects in ways that ignite their curiosity and passion.
Yeah.
With a teacher right there with them.
Yeah.
And what I love is like now a teacher who can do what they love and what they got into teaching for is helping to elevate the education and life of young people.
Yeah.
Other aspects, I see is enhanced engagement. Thinking about intelligent tutoring systems to interactive simulations and gamified learning experiences,
Mhm.
teacher support, thinking, we've spoken about this a few times about digital twins and AI agents. AI can free teachers from repetitive tasks like grading and administrative work, allowing them to focus on what they do best, building relationships with students, providing mentorship, and facilitating meaningful discussions and planning innovative projects, interdepartmental you know projects where you know you have the time and energy to. And the last thing that I think is really important is expanding access and equity. AI has the potential to bridge educational gaps by providing access to high quality resources and personalized support to students, regardless of their location, background, or abilities.
Yeah.
We're thinking about students that come from marginalized communities,
Mhm.
those with different abilities, who speak different languages. I had a student that came to my seventh grade class my first year that uh, literally spoke no English and could not understand a word that I was saying. He was moved quickly moved to I think he moved schools, but um, you know there are so many things that AI can help to enhance both the teacher experience and the student experience. And I think when those pieces are enhanced, you thus then have an enhancement of the parent experience and the administrator experience, because there's just so much tension right now in schools, and it's between teachers and students, teachers and parents, teachers and administrators, and all of that. It's just so much stress, and a lot of it is due to just people being exhausted. And as much as we all try to talk about work life balance, it gets tough. Like, if you want to be a good teacher, um you know what I say is, like, it can be the easiest job in the world or the hardest job in the world. And if it's the easiest job in the world, you're just handing out worksheets,
Yeah.
and sitting at your desk. But uh, if you really want to be a great teacher, and now AI is helping to lower this amount of time spent, but you really need to, day in, day out, when you get home, working, weekend working, thinking, um you have 100, upwards of, like, you could have like 150 students,
Wow.
and
Yeah,
so
it's extremely taxing on teachers, I can imagine. I know I personally come from a long history of teachers, and the teachers definitely need some support. And I think some of these AI solutions we've been talking about could really be beneficial for them and helping them with lesson plans and some of this like administrative stuff like you mentioned, just taking that weight off of them so they can focus on what really matters to them and getting into the real teaching and really reaching the students. And I love the notions you were talking about, the personalized learning for, each student is uniquely different. Some like to learn visually, some like to learn via audio. Like I learned when they released the new Google Gemini features about one of the developers, one of the main group like members of Google said that they trained that on their son was taking a class, and they loaded in all of the homework assignments and all of the notes and all of the tests into Google Gemini. And then it spit out basically an AI tutor of sorts, or a way for them to learn and prepare for their tests. And it was all in a podcast format, which I thought was really unique and really interesting because his son likes to learn through podcasts and loves podcasts, loves to listen to them. And so taking in all that information from his class and putting it into that format really resonated with him. And he was able to interact with these little podcast hosts. And if they brought up a subject, they could ask a question and engage and dive deeper. Like, I just love that notion of, no matter, your preference of learning, if you have some disabilities and like prefer a different modality of learning, you have that ability to use those tools at your disposal so that it resonates with you in a way that's going to make you actually learn the content and not just being a sort of memorization type of modality. So I love that notion of the personalized learning, and I think that's going to be extremely transformative for the education of students going forward.
yeah, and I think necessary. I think just as with each new generation, I saw that, I guess, this is the year Generation B starts, which is sort of a lame name in my opinion. But no, it's just like, this is like, they want to, they're using their voice, which is awesome. And like, that's something I tried to spend, like, every Friday, taking some time out to show them other, like, young activists working in different
Mhm.
parts of the world. And like, this generation, they want to work on things that they care about. And you know it's more and more like, if students don't like you, regardless of how intelligent or capable they are, they're not going to work as hard for you. And so, having this technology where you can, if as a teacher, be like, hey, like, this student is like this and this is their personality, how can I get through to them, or a parent. And it's like, having a place of no judgment, to work through really sometimes tough scenarios that are very important. Because like, that's, for me, like, that was the most important thing, was the education of my students.
Mhm. Oh, that's amazing. That's no, I'm so excited for the future of these technologies and like you said, the innovative nature of these for the new generation. I'm excited to see how this continues to evolve and seeing how these new technologies will be start to be applied in the classroom. Do you have any concerns about some of this AI technology in the classroom? I've heard I think when generative AI first came out, I heard teachers were extremely concerned of cheating going on and having their entire essays written with chat gpt. So how are you thinking of that? What does that mean for you as an educator when you think of ai being used in the classroom? Should it only be used in some context or certain assignments, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think of it in one way as like there's no stopping it. You can't get out of the way of this fast moving train that's getting wider and faster each day. And so it's like you have to figure out how can we harness this technology and get the best out of it. And I think, it's there's a lot of concerns, um from a basic level, from like, you know budget constraints and schools not even having enough resources, when they're trying to worry about things like supplies and staffing. Technology sometimes can be the last on the list. I mean, there's also like resistance to change.
Yeah.
Something like interesting that I've thought about is like some teachers and some administrators have been in a classroom in some form or fashion their entire life, from preschool to their job. And so it's sometimes it's hard to and if you see it as this worked for me and this is working for others still, it's hard to think about like, oh, well, there's this new technology, and now all the students they're just going to cheat, and some will, and some are, and some will be better at it than others. If a teacher cannot differentiate between an AI essay and a student essay, uh, you know, I feel like that's sort of on the teacher, because I feel like it's for me it was clear when I saw something that was not written, whether it was just cut and pasted from the internet, or because it's there needs to be accountability, but you can't you can't stop this from happening. And uh, I think it's finding ways like that hackathon idea where students can use it, and but having it structured in a way where like you're talking about what you're learning and you're sharing about what you're learning. You're not in the technology all the time. And it's like there are major concerns about not there are I've like about the ability to write. And uh I think writing is such a powerful skill. I'm very grateful that I had parents that like hammered that home. And like, so I feel like as much as I use generative AI to write a lot of things, I have that strong foundation I can go back to, and just dust it off of like I know how to write. But I think there's equity issues. I think technology has the potential, as I was saying earlier, like to bridge, but also widen educational disparities. Ensuring that all students have equitable access to innovative tools and resources is crucial,
Yeah.
but it's a complex challenge that requires addressing issues of affordability, digital literacy, and infrastructure access. Prioritizing equity in the design and implementation of any innovative solution is essential. And you know, algorithmic bias, ensuring that you're using it in a responsible way that is using data from that community and from the students, that's tailored to the students you're teaching, not uh, you know, some private school in Dallas or Charlotte. It's tailored to your students,
Right.
uh, because it's it's like it's so in a lot of schools. It's just really sad the state if you're thinking about not even digital literacy, just literacy.
Yeah.
Having in seventh grade, having students come to me that were reading at a first grade level, kindergarten level,
Yeah.
and you have they're just getting pushed up all this data that you're taking with all of these tests. By the time you get that data, because these tests are at the end of the year, by the time you get that data, um, it's all like the students are gone.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's uh, concerns, of course, but to me, like the benefits outweigh those concerns, because right from the bat, when I like learned about generative AI and just like more of this new AI revolutions, I know it's been around for a while, and um, the first area I started going to is education and data, and thinking, you have a human capital issue, an energy issue in terms of people energy and time. You have all this data. What are you doing with it? You can make real-time decisions now, and you can actually um, personalize, an education based on results of a test they took that day.
Yeah.
And but and there's ways and there's people that like you and like others that are focused on responsible AI and ethical AI, and there's tons of resources and people you can bring in. And so it's really on you to always think of like, yeah, there are challenges, but this is what we have to do because this is the way the world is heading. And so what are we going to do to overcome those challenges and ensure we have safe data and our students are safe, and they're learning in a way that they want to learn and learn, yeah, best.
Yeah, that was wow, that was extremely well said, talking about all the great benefits of this and using that data for so much good, but then also, you got to protect and put some guardrails around, basic reading, writing, arithmetic, like those are foundational sort of key elements that we need to make sure, students are really getting the deeper learnings and the solid foundation in those kinds of elements, so that they can, later on enhance with some of these newer technologies and just enhance their abilities and learning and all those sorts of things. But yeah, I think you've definitely got to protect those foundation things, protecting the students and their learning and enhancing that with that data. I love what you said about that. So all very very well said, very good points in that of how to how to safeguard these students and their education. Well, do you have any other predictions for your industry? Any other like innovative technologies? I don't know if you've thought of like any short-term gains. I'm starting to see some generative AI things kind of getting into some classrooms and even long-term. I mean, we didn't even talk about like virtual classrooms as much of like kind of the COVID times of we were all kind of remote. But yeah, what do you have any predictions for the future of education?
Yeah, as any teacher, former teacher, dues, like I made a nice list, bullet points, get your pen and paper out, let's take some notes. But no, I see like the future is brimming with possibilities. And so short term, I see it like on a broad perspective, like you're empowering students and teachers. Things like AI powered tutors, imagine every student having access to a personal tutor available 24/7, offering tailored support, feedback, and guidance. It's not about answering questions. It's not just going to the back of the book and looking at what the answer is. It's about adapting to each student's learning style, pace, and challenges, and also maybe uncovering like what if they have a skill in engineering that was not seen. So I think this technology can also uncover certain skills and interests that could be translated into a career. Some other short term, I think intelligent assessment and feedback, sort of like what I was talking about. Getting that day of immediate feedback, which is so important. And in the way that teaching is done, feedback is tough and time consuming, especially with the amount of students you have. And last is like another one, sort of we talked about this too, is automated administrative tasks. Midterm, which I think this is really great. Thinking about nurturing well-being and fostering connection. We're thinking about mental health and well-being support. AI-powered chat bots and virtual counselors can provide students with confidential support, resources, and guidance for managing stress, anxiety, and other mental health challenges. This can really help to create a more supportive and inclusive school environment where every student feels seen, heard, and valued. Because like right now, it's school counselors for schools that have them, uh, because of time and cap budgets and all this, like they're being pulled into scheduling and all these other things, and so they're not able to provide what they can for students. And so this would also possibly open up more of an ability for them to be that physical presence. Other ones for midterm, social emotional learning integration. um, Another very important one, I think these soft skills, ones that weren't necessarily valued as much um, in education or in the workforce. Those are really becoming valued now, and AI can help assess students' SEL skills, track their progress, and provide personalized interventions to help them develop things like empathy, self-awareness, and healthy relationships. And then also what we love as being global chamber members is global collaboration and cultural exchange. Um, I had a pen pals. I don't know if you ever had a pen pal,
Yeah.
but I had an Egyptian pen pal, and writing note letters to each other. And now it's like you can have that, but you can work with other classrooms. So like I wanted to do that when I was a teacher. It just it was difficult with the resources we had. And
Yeah.
then long term, if we're looking like way far into the future, uh, like what you were saying about the traditional model of brick and mortar schools, just like the traditional office model has, I think will evolve into a more flexible and personalized metaversity. Students will have access to a vast array of courses, resources, and experiences, both online and offline, curated to their individual needs and interests. It seems like to me like that sounds like the best of homeschooling and traditional like public schools. Like you are getting to take education into your own hands, but you still have that social environment. And then the last two, which I love this one, lifelong learning as the norm. That's what I gain the most value out of AI powered tools is it has enhanced my ability to learn and learn more. And so having this technology, and as it becomes stronger and more advanced, you just able to learn so much more that can help you grow as a human and in whatever field sector you're going into. And then AI as a co-creator, I think a really important thing to say is, yeah, like in terms of a lot of people, and I feel like it's sort of going away, but it's like the replacement theory. And like AI is not going to replace teachers, but will evolve into a collaborative partner, augmenting human creativity and expertise. Teachers will become curators of knowledge, facilitators of learning, and mentors who guide students on their personalized journeys. And like that's that's what I love most about teaching. So I think it's if we can have conversations where we bring stakeholders together and show these case studies and show and have them experience the value that this technology can bring, while also having their any concerns or fears alleviated. um, that's the step towards, I think, because like I see my last thought is like I see the education system specifically here in the United States is like a big spaghetti junction. Like you have federal, state, municipal, local, district, school, classroom, like it's like a convoluted mess, and it's overwhelming to think about how you can drive change in that type of system where things are so entrenched. Um, but I think AI can start to unravel some of those pieces of spaghetti and help to get us back on track and our education system as competitive as it should be on a world level.
Yeah. Wow. Well said. Yeah. I certainly hope that, the AI, could be part of that solution to untangle the spaghetti and, and help us get on a more solid path and foundation. But it sounds like the future is very bright for education, and all these great innovative technologies are only going to keep enhancing for the student and the teacher and parents. So I'm very excited to see sort of how these innovations continue to evolve and continue to impact the education industry.
Yes, yeah, me too.
Awesome. Well, this was an incredible conversation, Jacob. Thank you so much for your time today. I always learn something new from you. I'm always a lifelong learner as well, so I love our conversations. We always seem to talk about some really interesting topics. So I'm really excited to have you on today. You're certainly an innovator in education based on everything from your experience to everything you're, looking into now, and seeing those sorts of trends and AI and innovation take place within education. So I'm really excited to see, what else you uncover on your mission. I'm very excited to see, where else this takes you. So could you tell our listeners a little bit about, how they can connect with you and just keep up with all the great work that you're doing?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like my second home is LinkedIn. And before I get into that, and thank you for this opportunity to come and chat today. Like I love talking about education, and I love talking about uh, the possibilities. A big thing for me is like my why is I want to challenge the status quo. I want to find better ways to do things and make an impact. And um, I think that thinking about how to improve the education system is and talking about that is something I could do any day of the week. But yeah, in order finding me, like my second home is LinkedIn. I write a lot of posts. I'm currently writing about an event that I went to in Seattle, a climate event, and tying it into this TED Countdown talk about intuition. And so do a lot of different series about different sectors, including education. So come find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. Yeah, I'll certainly will continue to keep up with you on LinkedIn and all the great work that you're doing. I'm always excited to see that the different posts and the different events that you're going to. So I'll definitely ensure to keep up with you there. But yes, thank you so much again for sharing all your incredible insights. This is a really wonderful conversation. So I really appreciate you being on the Industry Innovators podcast. And thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. No, thank you, Sarah, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this channel and tune in for more interviews with industry innovators. I'm your host, Sarah Cornett. Keep innovating.